Hello and welcome to the banner review. Yeah, so today we have new banners. We have Mauvika, we have Citlali, and we have all of those 4 stars, Bennet, Diona, and Kichina. So yeah, today I'm gonna review all of those characters, and we're gonna start with the 4 stars. If you're interested in comparison of the 5 stars, you can skip the video to the right timestamp. So yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, we're gonna start with Kichina because I've seen like a lot of talks about her regarding Mauvika and being a potential support option for her. The thing about Kichina is that she does not provide literally anything for Mauvika outside of the nice soul points consumption. Yeah, so as you can see here, you're gonna use your E on Kichina and you have the nice soul bar here. It goes down incredibly slowly and it takes 12 seconds to completely consume all of the nice soul points. In this time you consume 60 points, right? Mauvika needs 200 to max out her stuff. She herself generates 90 and it needs at least 100 to actually function. So technically, if you were able to burn all of those points, she would be a decent support. Now, the problem here is that, as I said, it takes 12 seconds to fully burn through all of these nice soul points. So realistically, what you can expect is burning about like 40 points and then like bursting on Mauvika. And I'm not sure how it exactly is going to work, but the additional 20 might add up to the next rotation. But even if it does, this plus the scroll set is like the only thing that she actually provides. I don't have a scroll set here. Yeah, there. Which isn't that insane. Though Mauvika is strong enough that if you probably just force Kichina as your like nice little generator into a team like this, it still will function, though not as well as if you were to put Shilonen in, or Citlali or something like that. As for her constellations, most of you probably don't have many, I don't have any actually, and those constellations aren't particularly strong. The first one regenerates a bit energy. The second one is actually a little interesting because it will regenerate 29 soul points. Now the thing about that is that does not generate energy for Mauvika, because if you have not been following Genshin meta, Mauvika does not use energy, she uses night soul points, if you still haven't realized from what I'm saying here, and she needs night soul points consumption, while Kichina here regenerates 20, so regenerating, not consuming. Now, if she regenerates those points after she already used up some of the points from her initial skill, then there's a chance those nice soul points will add up to the next rotation. But I'm not sure if that's how it works, so this constellation might not be completely useless. Now, with all of that said, Mauvika does so much damage that very often there won't be a second rotation. Maybe if you play the weaker teams with Kichina, but with the stronger teams there won't be a second rotation. So yeah, this isn't even like that good of a constellation. Yeah, C3 is useless. C4 like does something, but it's not like much. And it's very specific, so it's not great. C5 is terrible, and C6 isn't like a great thing either. So essentially, Kichina's constellations are pretty bad. Yeah, her constellations are pretty bad. Her baseline kit, like, is alright. Like, if you don't have literally any other options for Mauvika and you get her, you can use Kichina. You just put her on the scroll set and it's gonna be fine. But you don't wanna specifically build her for Mauvika. You would rather just try to get Citlali or maybe play with Auroron and Chefrus, which is also going to be a team you can do, even though it's not gonna be as good as the other options, but you can do something like that. Now let's speedrun Diona and Bennet. Okay, so the thing about Diona, she used to be very good in like 1.0. Nowadays, she's not used that commonly, but the utility she provides is quite useful, and now with Mauvika, she will gain a lot of value, because Mauvika kind of like, I mean, not really with Mauvika, it's more like with Citlali. I mean, with Mauvika too, but it's like with both. Like, not with both in the same team, but like, if you play core of Diona Citlali or Mauvika Diona. So yeah, essentially, very quick reminder, she generates a shield with her skill, and she heals on the burst. If you have her C6, while you have her burst up, you get 200 EM, which is very useful, and that's like why this character is sometimes even considered into like those melt teams over Rosaria. Before we talk about the constellations, let's quickly talk how exactly is she gonna be synergizing with all of those like characters I just mentioned, with Mauvika and Citlali. So with Mauvika, obviously one of her teams is going to be melt team. You're gonna play like Mauvika, Citlali, Shilonen, and then your last slot is going to be like either Diona, Rosaria, it could be Bennet. At this point, you might not be getting many melts, like maybe 2. But I mean, you can play those kinds of teams with Diona. Now, of course, if you have her C6, it is going to be significantly better. And without C6, I would not go with this character unless you need the defensive utility which she provides, which you want. Because you're either playing Shilonen, who has a healing on her burst, you're playing Bennet, who has insane healing, or you're playing Citlali, who has a shield. So I would say, if you want to play double cryo, you go Kaya or Rosaria over Diona. But if you have her C6, you can consider going with her too, because EM is very valuable on Mauvika. So now let's quickly move over to the constellations. Diona regenerates 15 energy after using her burst. This isn't like insane. Her burst is an 80 cost, but at the same time she generates a lot of particles with her skill. You often play her on the stack bow because you can very reliably proc it with her. Like on her you just like hold skill and you fire 5 hits and each one of them can proc stack bow. So honestly, if you don't proc this passive, like if you have R5, that's like worth documenting because it's so unlikely. It's insane. Plus you're often playing her with double cryo, so essentially that energy might not be that useful, but it is here. C2 increases the shield strength, which is the important part of the passive, and it also makes it so if you're playing in the co-op, you can apply a shield to other players. C3 isn't very useful. C4 is for the main DPS Diona, which isn't an actual playstyle, don't get baited by this. C5 makes the shield a bit stronger, and then C6, as I said, it gives you 200 EM, while you are within the burst radius. So overall, she has a bunch of like places where she can be used nowadays. She was, for like the past year or two, she became a bit less valuable, but now with Citlali and Mauvika, she kind of regains her place in the meta. It's mostly due to her C6, so if you don't have her C6, unlucky, but if you have her C6, you can build her for one of those two characters I just mentioned. And obviously you can also play her with like Diona, Citlali, core with like any pyro DPS, like Arlecchino for instance. Okay, lastly we have Bennet. I'm not gonna talk much about him because all of you like already know how good Bennet is. But for the 1% of you who don't, he's very good, get him. Even at C0 he's insane. Burst, as you guys know, gives him like an insane healing and insane base attack buff. Let's quickly just talk about how good his cons are. They're not like very good because his baseline is just insane, but they're useful. C1 is probably one of the better constellations because it just increases how much base attacks he gives. C2 increases ER when he's below 70%. It is a little useful with Furina teams. You will get like, you get to like use his burst and skill, then you get the healing proc, so you have like 30% ER more for a second. I'm not sure if it's actually going to apply, but regardless, it's a minor effect, so let's not talk about it. Skill isn't very useful. Okay, C4, I'm gonna be honest, I've been playing this game for 4 years, somewhat Fiora crafting it. I have never seen this effect like take place. Yeah, I never paid attention, so it's like very irrelevant. C5 is very useful. It essentially increases like the base attack gain that you get from his burst by like 20%, which is insane. And then C5 gives you the pyro infusion and the 15% pyro damage bonus, which unlocks an insane amount of playstyles, so it is worth getting at this point into the game. So now let's talk about Mauvika or Citlali. Now the thing about those two is that like both of them require very specific teams to function. With Citlali, she has a wider variety of teams and like significantly wider. But like if you just get her and you have nothing on your account, she won't give you much. So I guess we can start with Citlali since I started talking about her already. Yeah, so as I mentioned before in the Kichina section of the video, a double cryo core is something that you can do and something that will be somewhat commonly used. As for some teams that are like going to function with her, like as I said, the cryo team. Yeah, let's showcase some teams. So let's pretend Aloy is Citlali because no one would ever play Aloy, so yeah. A double cryo team with, for instance, Arlecchino as your main DPS and whoever you would want as your like 4th slot. Like you can go Shilonen, Zhongli, Kazuha, Bennet, whatever. This is going to be a very valuable team. Obviously, you can swap out the cryo options. As I said before, you can use Diona, or maybe Layla, or you can also use like Kaya. Where is he? Here, you can use him too, right? But all of those are just melt teams. There are also vape melts, where you just go like Furina, for instance. And if you don't have Furina, you can always just like go Yelan. And if you don't have Yelan, like technically you can go Xingqiu, but like at this point I would just go Bennet and just play something like this, which is a single cryo melt, which is a melt team with a single cryo character. The thing about this is very often many of the characters won't be able to melt all of their hits. Plus there's like a lot of things that can go wrong with something like that. So I think this is going to be a less commonly used option, but it's something that you can also do. And obviously I'm showing here Arlecchino, but like you can go with pretty much any DPS. With him, yeah, it is going to be a bit rough because she's going to be like her normal attacks move her backwards. Kaya, Diona, all of them have like cryo effects that are like fairly annoying to like make sure they're gonna hit the right enemy to apply cryo if you're moving so much on your Yoimiya. But yeah, that's that. Leveled teams are also worth mentioning. In her base kit, I mean Citlali, in her base kit she shreds Hydra and Pyro-Res, so pretty much any teams that can like utilize this passive are gonna be alright. In this team you have 2 damage dealers pretty much, and both of them are Hydra, so putting Citlali in this will be a fairly good option. Plus you get a shield, which is very good with Nevilet before C1, so that's very good. Obviously you can also use like Ayato here instead of Nevi, or if you hate yourself you can also just like go with Yelan. So right, this is kind of like a list of like what teams can you do with Citlali, and obviously there's going to be the Mauvika team. Bro, I need a second Aloy, so like people know this is like Citlali and this is going to be like Aloy, or like what Mauvika would I use? Oh wait, there's my second Aloy. Sorry, Xinyan mains. all 5 of you. So obviously I previously mentioned that Citlali will be able to, you will be able to use her in double cryo teams, and double cryo teams are gonna be one of the better teams for Mauvika. Now let's talk a bit about Mauvika now. Mauvika is either alright or insane. In terms of DPS, she's the strongest DPS in the game. With that said, Nevelet still will be better than her because 1, he has a significantly better AoE, 2, his team requirements are like, you can probably just make a team of like an MOMC on VV, Kichina or on the scroll set, and then like Kaya, and then if you have a decently well built Nevelet, you can probably still clear the content. While Mauvika, from the other hand, requires incredibly specific supports. So the list of her supports for now is Shilonen, who is her best option. With Shilonen, she can stack up the Night Soul points very easily. And as I said before, Mauvika requires 200 of those Night Soul points to be consumed in order to use her full burst. And so with Shilonen, she can reach that very easily. Then the other options we have is Kichina, who I talked about already. We have Auroron in Sheffield's teams, which is going to be alright. And then we have Citlali. Citlali is going to be one of the best supports for Mauvika. The passive she gives that increases the pyro damage is insane. The cryo application is insane. If you play solo cryo, you will be able to only melt like 2 hits consistently, and then like in the perfect case scenario probably 4, but even then her damage is just so insane, it's gonna be worth it even if you can only melt like 2 hits, as long as you melt the initial burst hit. So yeah, all of this to say that getting both Mauvika and Citlali would be greatly beneficial for the account. But if you don't have like Shilonen, if you don't have Citlali, if you don't have like even Auroron, you're left with just like Kichina and I guess Pyro MC for the Night Soul point generation. Mauvika will not be that good of a character. Now she's gonna be still probably able to clear all of the content very easily, but in some cases it is going to be rough. Now I also expect that we're gonna be getting like an insane amount of, or at least a few more supports that you will be able to use with her. Actually, let me check Twitter, maybe they just drip marketed some. We know that there are like at least 2 more Nathan characters coming, so Mauvika will gain more supports in the future. And there's also her off-field playstyle. As an off-fielder, she's pretty much just like a Xiangling, but like a little better. So the reason why she's better than Xiangling is that Xiangling requires a lot of energy, she requires her C4 to be like valuable, and all of those are kind of like a downsides. But with Mauvika, you just press E and you roll with this. So you don't need any energy on her, so you don't have that problem. She will deal a bit more damage, and she has a passive that buffs the on-field character. So for like Mualani, she's going to be probably better than Xiangling. For like Kinech, right, she's also going to be better than Xiangling. Now with that said, of course she's not gonna be always better than Xiangling. Xiangling has an insane pyro up, like once every second, which is very fast. And there are 2 sides in the Abyss, there's like multiple chambers in the theater. So Xiangling still will be rather useful. It's just that now she's like a little power creeped, but like not even that power creeped. It's kind of like when you compare Yelan to Xingqiu, that's what Mauvika is to Xiangling. Like, will she deal more damage? Yes. Does she give the buffing utility? Yes. But at the same time, you have Xiangling, who has a better application. So overall, what I'm going to say is that like, if you have decently well-built account, it doesn't really matter who you're going to get, whether like you're getting Mauvika or Citlali. They're both very strong as long as you can utilize them. Obviously, if you have like 0 pyro DPSs and you're gonna pull for Citlali and you don't even have Nevelet or Furina, then this is not going to be that good of a pull. But like if you have some pyro DPSs, if you have like you know, for instance, or like at least Nevelet, this is going to be a decent pull option. So what I'm going to say is that like pull for who you want, like both of those characters are insane. You will have use from both of them. Also, the banners in the next patch will last for 6 weeks, right? I will double check that later. For instance, I'm gonna be getting Mauvika and then I'm gonna like spend all the Primogems I can get on Citlali because like they're both very OP. So yeah, that's gonna be it. I'm not doing the weapon banner because no. Yeah, and this video is already too long. So subscribe. Bye.